welcome. This is I Can Deal, NT Board Games official podcast, and that was our intro. I'll say again, it was created by Astrostasis. Look in the show notes; you can see his Twitter handle.
All the bleeps and the bloops.
Yes, but I'm Adam, and CJ's with me.
Hello,
and we're back for another episode. I was thinking of trying to shake things up a little bit in how the format instead of just diving right into it.
Yeah.
But I forgot to fully plan that out.
I mean, what were you thinking of?
A little bit more of a casual banter instead of straight into the thing, the meat, the topic, but just kind of like, oh, how's it going? What'd you do? And just kind of a light, welcoming people before we get heavy.
I know. I was thinking like maybe even starting off on like board game news, but that would require us to do some research.
I actually was thinking a little bit about that, but I only went to one site and it didn't really have anything. It was just like, hey, I went to Fantasy Flights and it was like, oh, they're like, hey, look, we have stuff for tournament play.
Oh.
I was like, okay. And there might have been something for, there was something for RuneScape miniatures or whatever that game is that they're doing since they gave up WarQuest. Warhammer.
Yeah.
Okay. And, they look pretty cool, but I'm just like, I have to paint them, and there's another X-Wing game that I won't play. No. So I'm just avoiding looking at that, because they have this really cool rock golem thing with two arms, and I'd be like, oh, that would be pretty cool to paint. Even though I just bought a bunch of miniatures, not a bunch of miniatures, but like a miniature game just to build and paint the miniatures. It's from Malifaux, actually.
Oh.
Yes. I was like, this is really cool. And it's been out of stock and in stock multiple times at miniature markets. And it finally was in stock. And I needed to pad out an order because I invested into Elder Sign to play co-op with the girlfriend.
Oh, nice.
And I got the mats, the base game, 2 expansions. Because people say the 2 expansions make the game awesome. Though we had a good time playing the base game.
We're still talking about Elder Sign?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Elder Sign. So I just bought that and padded it out. It's Malifaux Children of December.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I have. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, like the big giant ice golem looked really cool to paint, and I've seen really cool. I was like, oh, I can try painting out that stuff, and I don't really care about the...
So are you going to be an Arcanist? Is that...
This is more so like just to experiment with the painted stuff and building stuff and painting and not feeling obligated to complete the whole game.
You're turning into one of those?
No, because the last time I painted was the Doom figures, which is a while ago, but like it was... I don't see myself just because I take that back. I would do that if I had a designated like paint table.
Okay.
I think that's what holds me back, since like I have this box. I pull out the box, lay out all the stuff, lay out all my paints. And granted, it doesn't take that long, but it's still kind of a hassle.
Yeah. You
get the water and everything, and then once I'm done, I have to put it all away.
Yeah, it's a big pain in the ass.
Yes. So I think that's... If I moved to a new place that had like an
extra room. Yeah,
that could have like a dedicated paint table or area to paint, that would be a different story. I could be like, oh, I'm just going to paint a little bit, and then... But... I don't think so.
Okay.
So
I mean, it's okay if you do turn into one of those.
Also, another reason, like, I'm not saying my painting's the worst, but I feel that I will get discouraged after a while seeing all these other people's paintings and just like...
Practice, dude. That's how you get better. You can't get better if you don't do it.
Yeah. Did I have another issue with... Anyways. All these issues, but yeah, that's... I'm not going to get into RuneScape. That's the only news I really looked up.
I mean, we are going to talk about this because I've been talking about it forever, and now it's finally on Kickstarter.
Empires of the Void 2.
No.
What is that game that I almost...
Rising Sun.
No, that wasn't it.
Well, I'm telling you, that's what I'm excited about. So
lucky you... Yes, this episode is about luck. Episode
we're just going to get
35,
right into it.
Just ignoring. Yes. It will have its time to shine.
It will. Oh, it will have a lot of time to shine. It looks so good.
I might. I'm almost consider. I haven't fully looked at it. I'm considering backing it too.
So we can both have a copy, or you just want to paint it?
I'm not going to paint that.
They look really neat.
Yeah, but then so the thing is, like, if they look super neat, I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up, especially like those big, like, like if I did paint them, I'll just paint like the big monsters.
Yeah,
like the kaiju or a kaiju.
The kami and the oni.
No, there's like a giant lizard thing that's called like kaiju or like a kaiju a.
Yes.
Okay.
There is one that is like
yes. Yes. So like something like that, like with Doom, like I'm painting select things. Like I'm probably going to stop painting Doom. I mean, I've only painted 4 Marines, but I'm probably not going to paint anymore.
The demons?
They look so good on their own. Like, it's not a whole lot of minute details. I mean, there are a lot, but like they're so well that it doesn't feel like they need to be painted. I'm sure they would look great painted if they're painted well, but I feel like they look good, and I didn't have an issue of like confusing what's what.
Got it.
And since like one player's playing the demon and he's moving all the characters at once, like all the imps move. Okay, well I know all the imps move versus like which soldier is yours. So that makes sense, and that's my main logic. The only one I would paint would probably be the big giant cyber demon if I wanted to do that, but I don't think I would. That's why I bought the Malifaux, so I don't have to paint figures. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm burpy. I don't have to paint the figures. I can paint that. It's set for that, and I got the big ice golem because he's big. And I guess that's also I want to look for a big thing to paint.
Yep. Anyway.
And luckily, it was in stock, and I could order it when I needed to. And yes, luck in games, the thing that apparently a lot of people hate. I actually had there was like a little light discussion in front of our meetup this past Sunday, where they were talking about Red Raven games.
Yeah.
And
why are we talking about luck?
Oh yeah, we're talking about luck because St. Patrick's Day is on Friday. If you're listening to this in a timely fashion,
yep.
March 17th.
God.
Dates matter.
Yep, it's gonna be Friday. A lot of drinking and 4-leaf clovers everywhere.
Yes.
So
I have some green shirts.
And yeah, lots of green shirts.
Yes,
but mostly drinking. But luck.
Yes, luckily you can drink on Friday and don't have to worry about going to work unless you work on Saturdays.
Wah, wah.
I might be going to... Anyways. So, I'm just so scatterbrained recently. Look, so one of the games is Above and Below.
Mm-hmm.
And they were upset... Well, it wasn't the dice. It was the adventure part.
Mm-hmm.
You're uncertain, if I remember correctly, the complaint, you're uncertain of what you're getting.
Yep.
And you're going down there for the adventure, it's for the fun theme, but as a person who wants to strategize, you're not sure what you're going to get. Whereas there is a BGG promo, which I bought just when I made a BGG purchase because it's like $5. Haven't used it. Now I'm kind of like, I don't care about it. But like, it allows you to do kind of an alternative to an adventure without the story, but you're rolling and you know what you can get. Like I haven't looked at the cards, but if I remember correctly, it was like here's you can get if you get 1 through 3, you get this reward. 4 is this reward. 5 through 6 is this reward. So it's that I could be completely butchering. I hope I'm not. But like their problem was like this way you can know what you're getting.
Well, that's different than luck. Unless, of course, you're just talking about the dice rolling. What you're talking about is making decisions decisions with imperfect knowledge.
It could be luck because it's a luck of what roll you do to get what story to open up.
I mean that also there's a lot of luck in that game.
Yes.
And like the game is fun. Like it's definitely like got some non-chance related elements, non-luck related elements. But then it does have like a very strong like requirement that you you do like roll some dice, and it's kind of like up to those dice whether or not you succeed or not. It makes strategizing in a nominally like pretty heavily strategy-driven game a little bit difficult. I also recently just played Dead of Winter again.
Okay.
Feel the same exact way that I did the first time I played it, and that was dice fuck you, like every fucking time.
Yeah, there was actually a side discussion about Dead of Winter. It's just like, I'm a librarian exploring. How did I die? I'm supposed to be good. Librarian exploring a library. I shouldn't be dying.
So there's some pretty heavy strategy to that game. Like, the game's tough on its own.
Yeah.
But it is possible, I know this because I saw it, to have both of your people die first round. Just luck of the draw. And not draw, I mean dice.
So you're trying to... somebody was trying to explore.
Just moving.
Yeah.
Just trying to leave and go to the new areas. Like, oh, rolled a tooth. Oh, but he was moving to an area with somebody already there. Now he has to die too. Fuck.
Was this your character?
I had 3 people die.
But you weren't the first two.
I was the first one to die.
Oh, so both of your characters died the first round?
No, my second character did not die the first round, but I did kill somebody else. So yeah, I mean, is that? So here's what I dislike about luck in games.
Okay. Would you like to... Well, I don't know if this is going to throw off your train of thought, but would you like to describe what you feel is luck in games?
Yeah, so any chance-related item, like, and this could be anywhere from rolling dice is the most obvious.
Yeah.
But then there's also, like, the draw of the cards.
Yep.
And those are the 2... best randomizing elements, and anytime you're trying to introduce like a randomizing element, you always introduce the element of luck. And like whether or not you want to call luck like playing the probabilities of odds, like if you know you have to roll a d6 and get that higher than a 3, you know that you have a 50% chance. So you're just like playing against probability at that point. Like it's not random, quote unquote. But it adds some imperfect decision making to the mix. Now, I love chess.
All the luck's there.
There's no such thing as luck aside from maybe your opponent has the flu or something. Like, that might be lucky. But all of the decision making is completely perfect.
Would you say that it would be luck if they missed where a piece location was? Like, I forgot that piece was there.
I mean, no. That just means you're playing against somebody who's not as observant.
Got it.
Like, that's...
I'm nitpicking. I'm trying to find... I'm devil's advocating.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's good. That's fine. I was talking about what luck is just as good as talking about what luck is not.
Yeah.
And I prefer games like that, or games that have elements of luck that are mitigated by a series of
enhancements.
So one game that I don't really know how to describe this. Like, it's mitigated by the fact that like you know what's coming next, because like in this particular case it's the deck of cards, but your deck of cards is so small. It's fine. Like, it's kind of a deck builder. You just recycle the deck, but the deck never gets so big that if you draw a hand of cards, you know what the next hand of cards is going to be. Like, there's some perfect information there. It might be there's some element of luck because the hand that you drew that round,
yeah,
you might be able to do something with, you might not. But then you can plan ahead and in normal games that is not necessarily true. Like there's still especially with dice rolling, the dice that you roll now have no bearing on the dice that you roll in the future. You could be just as fucked later.
Yes.
And that's just bad luck. That in my I understand that the randomization element levels the playing field a little bit, especially when you're talking about games that you're facing off against other people. Even like Star Realms, for instance, where your decks can get very large and you might not know what's coming next. There's that random element levels the field enough where you won't get trounced necessarily every single time. But it takes some of the actual game element out of the game. You can't, your decision making is impaired. And the better you are at strategizing, the more luck fucks with you.
Got it.
I mean, again, you can play the probabilities.
Yeah.
But
kind of like with, I guess, a big game of that is what is that game that they keep on Flux?
What about Flux?
Well, would you? I mean,
no. I know where you're going, but no.
No.
I mean, so that game's just so crazy. I don't even want to talk about strategy in that game because the game is intentionally engineered to be turned on its head at a moment's notice. And everybody switched their hands, and everybody changed their objective, and now you can play 3 cards at once, but you have to discard 5 first, and it's the game's crazy. The game's nonsense, and it's a lot of fun because of that. But it's never I would never use that and Flux and strategy in the same sentence.
Well, I meant more in the luck. It goes against the strategy, like you're saying. The more the luck goes against you.
That game is just more random than luck. And I know there's the card drawing element.
Yeah.
But it uses the other players as the randomizing element. It's not so much the card that you draw, so much as the card that other people decide to play. And they're playing it without caring. Sometimes they play it because it's a crazy, wacky thing. Everybody switched their hands. How crazy and wacky. They don't know what anybody else has in their hand. They're not trying to do this strategically. They're doing it because the game is intended to be a mess. That's part of its charm. But you can't strategize that.
Yes, I wasn't saying you could. Now, would you, outside of dice rolls in these games, but would you include some parts of hit and roll games to be luck based?
Yes, but probably not in the way that you're thinking.
Okay.
So I would consider it's very possible, just based on where people are sitting around a table, and especially in games like Resistance, or when the first player marker kind of goes around and everybody has to vote.
Yeah.
On what team they have. You can get a string where those 3 people in a row are all bad guys.
Yeah.
And just get fucked. And that's an element of luck that, just sometimes just kind of happens. And in Resistance specifically, it's a little bit more difficult to deal with because you're kind of forced into that situation. You don't have enough information that early on in the game to do anything about it. You could just downvote it, but then you don't know. You have no idea.
Yeah.
There's no information. There's not enough information that early in a Resistance game to make any kind of decision. I think they've mitigated that in Secret Hitler, where instead of like choosing multiple people to be on your team, you're just choosing one other person.
Mm-hmm.
And the powers that are granted to the president, like anytime they enact a fascist policy, like those help mitigate. Like, yeah, I think even if you had like a bunch of fascists just right in a row, like there's ways that the game kind of like balances it a little bit.
Okay.
Also, the fact that there's, instead of just getting the best 3 out of 5, it's now the best, or
First to 5.
first to 5.
Or assassination.
Right.
Got it. I was... yesterday I did play Room 25, finally.
Okay.
So I was just trying to think of, like, what elements of that, was it luck or bad strategy? I was one of the guards, and we lost.
It's really hard to be a guard in that game. Like, I've never played as a guard or seen other people play as a guard and actually, like, one, not immediately get found out if you're trying to do something shady, or two, like, try not to look like you're doing something shady, end up contributing to the...
You helped them out. Like
and
that.
Then,
yeah,
and then
I remember last time we played, I'm pretty sure it was last time, you escaped with us and you were
Yep.
in a guard.
Yep.
This incident... The other guard was not playing guard. I had everybody fooled that I was the right person. I was like, oh, look, I'm next to a mortal chamber, and there's one person in my room. Push. Oh, I pushed the guard. And then, like, from then on, I could never get to the other side because I don't necessarily like... I might forego using their little tray system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have a little board where you, like, have your character pieces, and you flip them over and they're dead, and you move them to the end of the thing. Well... One person died, and I left their marker there, and so they had two turns in a row with all three of the good guys going before me, because there's a dead person moving in. So I don't, and like I left them there because if you have the regeneration room, they can come back to life, and so it's a little messy.
Yeah,
but I think there's ways to mitigate it, just like
so. I think that there's luck in games that also kind of helps the game. Room 25 specifically because of the nature of the discovery and the expansion, like of like where are these rooms, and like you're trying to hunt and peck for like these, trying to get out, essentially, and without a random or any luck in that scenario, it makes the game stupid because you know where it is. Like, you have perfect information on how to do it. Like, it becomes more of a puzzle and less of a game.
Yeah. And there's so many room things.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, I would just randomly throw out room tiles, but I know if you put too many bad ones out, you can't possibly win. Because there's like ones like, oh, if you don't move out of here by your next action, you're dead. Well, if you have if you just moved in,
to start with,
you're kind of screwed unless
somebody decided to.
Somebody used a special ability of pulling you out.
Yep.
But you know, they won. There's not much I could do about it.
4X games are kind of the same way. I think, like, having that randomization kind of makes it a little bit better. Like Eclipse, like having the choosing the tile and flipping it, and I don't want to say I hate luck in games.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to have luck in your game, like, one, don't let it break the game. Don't let it take the fun away from the game. Namely, don't allow the possibility of you just dying flat out the first round. Like, the fact that that exists for Dead of Winter bothers me.
Yeah.
I don't know how often it happens.
But you should travel with gasoline. That's what I hear whenever anybody makes that.
Yeah, And another thing of luck, if you don't start your hand with any gasoline,
Yeah.
that's it.
And if your objective is have all the gasoline and 4 walls so you can burn the place down. Yeah.
So we ended up having a good time playing the game. Still don't like it. Which, fine, whatever. Like, I'm allowed to not like games.
Yes.
And I'll allow anybody who actually does enjoy that game to play it. But, yeah, having luck should not break your game.
Any other good examples of, besides Dead of Winter?
Of luck breaking a game?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna go with Eclipse. Like, battles in that are just too much. They're too much. Like, they're less decision-based, more just, like, trying to rely exclusively on the probability of, like, well, if I have, like, 6 guns and I roll 6 dice, I'm bound to hit something, and like
Maybe.
trying to play out like the optimizations of the probabilities versus like, well, do I get the shields or do I get the extra hit points or like, and if it wasn't such a giant piece of the game, I probably wouldn't care. But
Is it a giant piece? It's a big piece.
It's a once you get past the 4th round, it becomes like the part of the game that you do.
Like, I wasn't sure if I actually was expecting you doing like the luck of the tile flip and like what planet and resources are you getting.
Well, you can mitigate that by just not choosing that planet. Now, it does slow down your progression.
Yeah,
But you don't have to choose that one that you flip.
But then you're not doing anything.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That does slow you down. But
you could choose not to fight.
not if you want to win.
Have you tried peaceful?
I have. Well, only because I've tried peaceful because everybody else who's played with me in one game decided did not want to fight me, and they had actually explicitly like formed these walls of like impassable wormhole sections, and I was like, fuck you guys, like.
And you didn't win.
I did win.
See?
Well, because I amassed an army and I went straight through the center.
Oh, okay. So you did win by fighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a bit of a slog. Like, I couldn't just like fight the people around me. I had to like fight other people to get to the people that I wanted to fight.
Got it.
Fighting is a big part of that game. Like, you can't get away from it. Like, yeah. If you want to win, I do not think you can get away from fighting in that game. And just because of the nature of the randomization of the fighting, it just takes a long time. Because you've seen it happen where playing that game, like, I'll roll 5 dice and none of them fucking hit.
It happened in the iPad version.
Yeah.
When you were playing. You were doing a volley back and forth with the enemy AI for I don't know how long.
It was easily over 15 volleys.
Yeah.
And it was like...
There's a random. It's not biased.
Yeah. That was obnoxious. That's when in my mind you have too much randomization.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't mind a little, but when luck takes away the fun.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've heard the arguments like, well, sometimes life is just unlucky, and you kind of like, you're trying to make decisions in those random situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that there's a little merit to that, but the essence of a game is to distill in hyper focus on a particular like element of life, and like form like a nugget, like a fun little experience of life, and just kind of like let everything else drift away. One of those things should be randomness. Like, yeah, life's fucking random. I get it. But that does not mean that that's what games should be.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you feel about luck in games?
I have no problem with it, except I don't care for Flux, and we didn't play test this game. And those that are, I hate to say games that are only silly, because I feel like I probably own a game that's all extremely luck based.
Mm-hmm.
And because if I said I don't like any of those games, you'd be like, you have this game.
Do you just necessarily equivalent silliness with luck?
Sometimes, I guess I'm sometimes get luck and randomness mixed up.
Okay.
Because I enjoy programming games.
Yep.
And I don't know if you would call that luck of, he happened to go the other direction. I'm thinking of Lords of Zidit.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that game. And I happened to program it perfectly to go around, and I didn't know if the person was going to go. So would you... I guess that would be luck because the person didn't go your way.
Yeah, it's interesting when you have those kind of decisions because you're making... And this is kind of where Flux kind of lives exclusively, is making seemingly strategic decisions with completely imperfect information. And so that the result of that to everybody else is that you are making random decisions, which nominally is true. So Lords of It has a little bit of that, but you can predict, to some degree, is this person, where's this person going to go? Mm-hmm. And try to get inside their head, which is kind of the essence of gaming. Is what decisions do I make based on the imperfect knowledge that I have of the decisions that you're going to make? Mm. And Lords of Zit is a little bit different than Flux insofar as that everybody's goal in Lords of Zit is nominally the same.
Yeah, and the goal doesn't change.
Right. As opposed to Flux, where you have no fucking clue what their goal is at all.
Yeah.
So...
But I like the luck, or I guess randomness, because since I'm heavy thematic, I feel like it creates quirks in games. For example, what's that game called? It's called that game. It's that game that we play.
Eldritch Horror?
No. That
X-Wing?
Myth. It has the luck of the draw of how you shuffle your cards, and I feel that plays into an actual battlefield, whether you're thinking clearly in how to attack, or whether you're thinking, I should run,
and that's why I like the deck of cards a lot better when it comes to randomizing events. One, it's decks of cards are zero sum elements. When you take a bad card and play it out of a deck, that is one less bad card in that deck that you can play.
Yes.
Until the deck gets reshuffled again. And so that means that your chances of getting a better card have increased.
Yes.
So unlike rolling a dice, that chance is always going to be the same, no matter what. What?
Nothing. I continue. I'm just going to do a little text.
Okay. And so, you can just get a streak of bad luck and just come up with a bunch of bad rolls, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes. Whereas the deck of cards, you're eventually going to get the good stuff.
Right. And you can, if you know that you've gotten a bunch of bad cards right in a row, yeah, that kind of sucks, but you know all the awesome shit's about to happen, and you can kind of structure what you're doing to set yourself up for that, to maximize the use of those cards. Or if if you've got a bunch of good cards up front, you know your next couple cards are going to be kind of shitty. Put yourself in a safe position so you're not exposing yourself too much when those cards come up.
Now, how do you feel about the games that are based on the luck of dice, but they use mitigations of like items and cards? And
well, I mean, I really enjoy the Arkham and Eldritch Horror games, and they are very dice heavy.
Yeah,
like they have the skill checks and all that. I like the idea of like mitigating that through like the role playing elements where you, I don't mean like role playing, but
thematic.
Yeah, the thematic elements of like gaining pistols and Tommy guns and cursed swords and stuff like that. Like that kind of stuff shows like one, like it shows the progression of growth of the strength of the characters throughout the game, which is a neat thing. Like D&D is entirely based on that element, and you get to show like how kind of shitty and weak you are at the beginning, and then how kind of awesome and impactful you can be toward the end.
Hopefully, if you didn't take a dark pact.
Always take a dark pact. And sometimes, like, the game just fucks with you the entire game, and you never actually, like, gain anything. You never move, progress, and it's just, like, this constant slog. And sometimes that can be a lot of fun because it amps up the tension of the game. But still, I think there's enough dice rolling in that game, and none of them break the game. Like in Eldritch Horror, you won't die instantly at a bad dice roll.
Yeah.
No.
I'm trying to think of.
Unless, of course, you made it like a monumentally dumb decision by walking into like a horde of monsters and just like, yeah, I'm totally going to take this on.
Yeah.
And you make a
bunch of
bad dice rolls. Like, yeah, maybe then, but there was still like an element of you made a dumb decision.
Yeah.
As part of that.
Like taking a dark pact.
Like taking a dark pact.
Never wise.
Right. So, I mean, and that's a fine line, I think, like how to introduce that element of chance to amp up the tension of the game without necessarily breaking the game. Because I think if there's anything that breaks a game, it's always going to be the element of chance, either just too much or too little, can't say too little because there's games with no luck whatsoever.
Well, it depends on what type of game you're playing.
Right.
Like, if you're playing a serious game, yeah, but if it's... And I don't mean, like, silly, but, like, if you're playing a non-serious game, like, more thematic and is trying to give you an experience outside of game.
There's no such thing as a cooperative game without the element of luck. Because there's no tension at that point. It becomes a puzzle.
Yeah.
With perfect information, and all you need to do, and then there becomes then an optimal way of solving that puzzle. You need that element of luck explicitly in cooperative games to make the game work. So maybe that's what I should have said when you have too little luck in a game.
Yeah. Trying to think. The other games I played was Good Cop, Bad Cop. Surprisingly, no one liked the undercover aspect.
Really?
Part of it could be everybody was kind of new to it, and so it kind of, and they weren't necessarily grasping it. But then, like, we played without it, and they're like, "Oh, yay!" Except for one person who didn't like he did not like just how it played. But he's just like, oh, I just don't like it. But he gave it 2 shots, so he kind of like we did with Dead of Winter. Played it twice, and like, oh, that game's not for me. And he didn't say, this game sucks. He was just like, oh, that's not for me. I know not to play that. So it wasn't the hidden... I think it was just kind of, at a certain point, the fact that you can't win. Like, if you're the agent or kingpin, and, like, you get found out first and you're getting shot, like, it's very hard to turn that around. And the fact that people can change teams, and you end up just like, I had to hope I draw a good equipment card. So...
Well, I think there's also an element of that game that relies a lot on the hidden role aspect of it that people don't necessarily gravitate toward, because there is a fine line of eventuality in that game. Whereas, like, Secret Hitler or Battlestar or anything like that, you can play the entire game straight.
Yeah.
And nobody knows who anybody is. Like, there's not an eventuality aspect to that. Like, sure, there's some elements where somebody can reveal or, like, look at your card. But in Good Cop, Bad Cop, everybody's looking at everybody's card, and everybody's also flipping over their own card. So they're, like... long enough timeline, everybody's going to know who everybody is.
Yeah.
But early on in the game, somebody's like, you're the kingpin. And he's like, no, fuck you. I'm not the kingpin. You must be the kingpin.
Yeah, we did have somebody flip over their agent card.
Oh, womp womp.
It was like, everybody who doesn't have a face-up has to flip one over. And I stressed multiple times beforehand. I was like, don't check your cards before you flip it. He just flipped up. It's like, he's the agent. It's like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, and that's another game where it has elements of luck because you are making decisions in that game, but it's entirely by chance that they might look at, like, they might investigate the card that, like, exposes you entirely. So, yeah, I mean, there's that element of chance.
So, to go back, I do like luck games, and I think the reason why I like luck games is because, and perhaps it can be too severe, but it's a way to level the playing field.
Yeah.
And I think I like that since... Well, as you know, we tend to play with games with a lot of new people and teaching people, and therefore, you know, it gives the opportunity to somebody who's played it a lot or knows the game a chance to be knocked down a peg, and other people lift it up.
Yeah, I mean, and it really, really depends on what the type of game is and how it's trying to market itself, or like, when you're playing the game, like, the actual mechanic of the game that you're playing. Because 2 games that rely heavily on dice are, I would say, are engines explicitly built to try to mitigate the chance of those dice. And that's Artifacts Inc. and Maki Kuro. Both of those games, like... set up this scenario where you are either doing small reward for more regularly or big reward less frequently. And you kind of get to choose...
Artifacts Inc.?
Yeah. Isn't that the one where you roll dice and you have to assign those dice to...
For your workers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because... I guess I don't... I see... I understand that for Maki Kuro, but I don't think it's close enough example.
It's definitely much more prevalent in Maki Kuro.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's certain cases where you won't be able to use workers in Artifacting because you don't have the elements.
Yeah, they do have those side ones.
Right. But those are bullshit. elements. Like they're kind of like the booby prize.
I mean, the free money can be helpful, and
They're the booby
diving.
prize.
Diving, if you buy the right sea cards, you can get a lot of points. And then,
But like it's all about expanding your options in that game, like and finding ways to mitigate the chance of your dice workers, and so giving you the best opportunity to do things. Monkey Crow especially because just of the game explicitly asks you to, like, here's all these things that, like, if you roll this number, you get this thing, and so you can choose to diversify and get smaller rewards, or you can try to focus on, like, a particular number and hope that that number gets rolled.
yeah, they're fun games.
Yeah, I mean, and so in those games, like, the element of luck doesn't bother me so much because the entire game is built around the element of luck. Like, they've engineered the mechanic to be explicit on how we interact with chance, as opposed to just, like, introducing chance for the sake of, like, adding tension or theme, or because you couldn't think of a better way to figure out if you get bitten by a zombie or not. Could have that game's needs a
Or
D20.
radiation.
Or radiation. That game just needed a D20, not a D12.
You think that would have helped it out a lot more?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. Maybe I should stop trying to fix the game. Like, thinking of ways to fix it. Like, well, what if you have 2 hit points when traveling? Then you have to have separate markers for each character. Of course, you just put, like, blood token on them, but then you have to have more tokens. Or just not play the game.
Yeah, not playing the game.
And then the fact that the latest expansion is like, you had to have 2 copies of the game to play this expansion. It's like, what? No. That's... I mean, theoretically, most of the people who bought that, who's going to buy the new expansion, already have the base game and the second expansion, well, the first expansion. So you're like, oh, look, I have 2 games, but, like, one person has all the hard characters, one has all the easy characters.
Yeah.
I guess you could mix and match a little bit.
Also, like, enjoy games that have custom dice. So, like, a D6, for example, they might have 3 1s, 2 2s, and 1 3.
Yeah.
So, like, your chances of probability are, one, like, a lot less disparate. Like, that doesn't run the entire gamut. You have, like, a better idea of, like, what you're going to roll and
Your
how often
odds
you're going to
are
roll.
better. Yeah.
Right. And Cyclades kind of does this a little bit, but also, what was that game that we were playing?
I don't know. I have a lot of games with custom dice.
The Mare Nostrum.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was going to, with the fancy Roman numerals of the dice. I know Ancient World does it. Of course, you haven't played that, but their dice is not really a numbered thing. It's more so, you killed a Titan. Roll this dice to see what he does to you. It's like, does he destroy your village? You lose money or nothing happens. So that's using it a very different way, because it's not just like you have a chance of something awful happen or not so awful. So it's the same as 1, 2, 3, but different variables of it on a 6-sided die.
And, like, I don't want to poo-poo all on dice, because there are some games that use dice rather well, like Tiny Epic Galaxies. I really like the way that they use dice and chance in that game.
That's exactly the same thing as Artifact Inc., though, except, like, it's the same type of mechanic where, like, what you roll determines what you can do, except Artifacts Inc., the things are on your cards versus on the dice, and therefore a little more versatile. but like I feel like they're kind of the same.
They're similar. Yeah. Like, I didn't dislike artifacting. But I think Tiny Epic Galaxies uses the dice, mitigating the chance of the dice a little bit better, because you can... The resources that you can gain.
Yeah. It's you're not limited by what cards you have, so
Right.
therefore it's easier to actually do things. So that's nice.
And like, you can copy the dice that other people decide to use, and like,
Yeah.
makes the decision making a little bit more interesting.
So, is there an outside of Dead of Winter
Yeah.
and Eclipse? Is there an all-time favorite? Well, not favorite. Most hated dice or luck game you have?
I don't know how many of my friends are listening to this. But I'm gonna go with D&D. Fucking drives me batty. Like, how everything hinges on the roll of 1d10 or d20, sorry. And like, sure, you can like mitigate it by like beefing up stats and stuff like that, and gaining items, and
But you can still roll a 1, and you can only beef up so much.
right. It is, yeah. So one, like a 5% chance of like always failing, like, and not being able to do nothing about it. Like, okay, yeah, sure, fine. Like, there needs to be that level of tension, but there is a lot of RPGs kind of fall into that, like, and I don't know if it's better or worse. I haven't crunched the probability, the numbers on this, but sometimes it feels like when you roll more dice for individual successes and you just count the number of successes. I like that a little bit better because it gives you a sliding scale of like, well, did you succeed a little bit or did you exceed a lot of bit? As opposed to like straight up pass fail. And I know like there's been some additions to like degrees of success, like for every 5 over, you get like an extra bonus or something like that, and then for every 5 under, you get
More penalty.
And and that it's highly to do with the GM that's running the game, but it bothers me, and it's always bothered me. Is that the crux of the game revolves around that D20, and it can destroy a night if you're just rolling badly.
It's funny that you mentioned this D20, and yet you offered that into helping Dead of Winter.
Well, that's because
D20.
Dead of Winter uses a D12, so it at least increases the chances, or decreases the chances of getting an instant bite death thing.
Yeah, but I feel like if they did a D20, they would put more bites on it.
Yeah, they shouldn't. That's what I'm trying to say.
Would we didn't play test this game count as luck?
Never played it.
Okay.
Don't know.
It's kind of along the line of Flux.
I mean, anytime you're making decisions that are just like you don't have enough information to make them anything but random decisions, it does make your decisions themselves the randomizing element. Like, and so yeah, anytime you have randomness, like you have luck necessarily. Like, it could just be lucky that. Again, never played this.
We didn't play test this.
But yeah, never played that game.
Yeah,
but if you do an action out of just because I don't know, fucking no idea what else to do, so I'm just going to do this thing, and out of the result of doing that thing, out of complete disregard of any strategy, you end up getting the I win card. like, well, cool. That was really lucky.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, hard to say. No idea.
Got it.
Because I haven't played it.
Yes. I highly recommend you not playing it. It's.
I hear they didn't play test it.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Maybe they should have play tested it. But that's the most glaring one about luck. Now, one last interesting. Like, how do you feel Munchkin falls in with this? Because like there is a dice, but that's rolling. But that's only if you run away.
Yeah.
And like, sure, there's a bit of strategy of planning. Like, oh, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to hold on my monster cards or use all my monster cards and adding, and then like how. But then like it's always a slog at the end.
Yeah. And
I don't know.
So that there's an.
I'm not saying there's no luck and that there's no strategy. I'm just saying, like, where do you think it falls on the spectrum if you had to, like, rate
Well, there's
it?
very little decision making in that game, first off.
Mm.
Like, it's fight or run away. Those are your two decisions that you get to make.
Yeah.
And then, like, and then what shitty thing you're going to do to your neighbor.
Yeah.
Or
help your neighbor.
Or, I mean, yeah, that's
If
a
you're a
possibility.
cleric or
That's a
whatever.
possibility, but no.
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of decision making, or at least not a lot of interesting decision making in my mind, which really relies on one thing, and that's the flip of the card.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go knocking on doors and opening them and seeing like what monster comes out, like that right there is where 100% of like the meaningful luck is in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't find that particularly compelling. And you can get fucked in that game without doing anything.
Yep.
Like, which, if that can happen, in my mind, is not a particularly good game, or not a game that I'm going to enjoy. So, yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
I mean, half the reason why I asked that because I played another game, Myth, not Myth, Myth with an E at the end, Myth.
Okay.
It was also in that order of Elder Sign, and where it's not like Munchkin, it gets to the end where it's like Munchkin.
Well,
like where it's. I mean, I know the end of Munchkin is like, oh, who's going to win? Oh, blah, blah, you're not going to win, you're not going to win. It just sort of kind of feels like it's not so much, it's more so that it just kind of bogs down right at the very end.
The thing about Munchkin that bogs it down at the end has actually a lot less to do with luck.
Yeah.
Because the game actually does a pretty good job of, as the game progresses, it mitigates a lot of your luck because you've gained all this
More
power,
yeah.
and then it really just becomes like a take that game.
Yeah.
So I mean, it follows the same trajectory as like a D&D or Eldritch Horror, where you get stronger and mitigate more bad stuff. Or mitigate your chances of bad stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're describing as far as like, why does the game never fucking end?
Yeah.
Is because nobody wants to lose that game, and so they end up tripping their friend.
Yeah.
Or their neighbor.
Until they can't trip anybody.
Until it becomes this clusterfuck of everybody just tripping everyone else, and in a race that makes it go really slow.
Yeah, it wasn't luck. I mean, the ending of this Myth is not the same thing because the game plays differently. Yeah. But it does kind of have this whole like we're all just sitting there saying like, oh, who's going to do it? Because it's kind of like a mixture of Hanabi and something else. I don't know if you played Hanabi.
I've heard of it. I haven't played it.
Well, in this game, basically, you have everybody has a bunch of cards in front of their hand, and on your turn, you draw cards from other people, and those are how many steps you take on the path. And like one step, it'll have 1 dot, so you just need a 1. And you keep on drawing cards until you either stop or get an obstacle. If you get an obstacle, your turn's forfeit. But then like you can jump over people if they're in the spot ahead of you, so you don't have to pay for that spot. And the object of the game is get to the end. So everybody was at the end drawing cards and kind of bogged down because you not only do you have to draw cards, but you have to have the special card, one of the two or three special cards in your hand. I'm explaining this super well, but like it wasn't like Munchkin where you're trying to trip other people, but you're still trying to get that perfect hand. And I was earlier thinking like, oh, that's luck, and I was like, no, it's kind of strategy, because once you draw people's cards, you give them back out. Mm-hmm. You give out as many cards as you want, as long as everybody has 1 card. And so that becomes a strategy, but then when other people do it, does that turn into luck or just randomness? Because, so like, say we're playing 3 players, I took cards from you, and I took all your cards, and I handed out cards so all 3 of us had it, and then you did. So I know who generally has stuff if I took a lot of cards, but then you're doing it to somebody else, and then they do it. And
yeah, I think when you're talking about luck and randomness, when it comes to decisions of other people, it has to do with how perfect the information they have when making those decisions, and then how many iterations of those decisions that they have to make. Mm-hmm. Like, if I had to guess what number you're guessing between 1 to 10,
yeah.
Let's say I know you pretty well.
Dun, dun, dun.
You're probably going to pick a higher number.
Like, it was 2.
Yeah, well, but is that like I then have some sort of information, like just by knowing you, and then being forced to do that again and again and again and again. You also knowing like what I've picked in the past, and like the information, you gain a lot more information, and with each of those iterations, and so it becomes more of the more iterations you have, the more of a game it becomes, and less of a randomized element. But then if
it still becomes random and less of a game in that situation if, say, you're picking the number 1 through 10, but eventually some of the numbers are not pickable. And so you think, oh, he would pick a high number, but like what happened if it's 1 through 10, but 6, 8, and 9 are not available?
Right.
Then it still becomes random because like, oh, he would normally pick this, but then those aren't available for him to pick.
And this is what the entire basis of like Not Alone was kind of built on. It's like you're trying to guess which number these group of people are picking between 1 to 7 or 1 to 6, and like whenever they pick that number, like reduces the numbers of that they have as options, which like that's a really interesting game. It's a lot of fun, and it's really just a number guessing game. Like, what number am I thinking of? It's 1 through 5, and there's another game that was rock, paper, scissors. A perfect example of this. Like, it's seemingly random if we were to do rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Like, who is going to win the first round? Like, and it might be even completely random. Unless, of course, I always know you pick rock. But then, every subsequent round after that, there's some basic psychology at work that makes it less random. 1, the person who wins is generally going to pick the same thing. 2, the person who loses is generally going to pick the thing that's going to beat the thing that just beat them. So if you know those 2 elements of basic psychology, all of a sudden now you have a game. It becomes less random, and you can kind of get into the head of the other person. And there is still an element of chance. You're still making imperfect decisions, which add what nominally looks like randomness, even though there is still a decision being made. And so, like, I kind of want to avoid saying it is it is random, because it is not like dice where it is probability based.
Yeah.
But it still has the same effect. Where there is still luck.
So do you think, in not just a situation of Myth, but like situations of those games, that the more table talk, the more it becomes a game? I'm not saying it wasn't a game before, but like the more like your interactions, like, oh, you should take a card from me, and trying to get into their head, do you think that makes it more of a game or encourages a more gameplay and something?
I mean, I think that makes it more interesting.
Yeah. Well, we're not arguing that. And if it could, and also it makes it more fun, like more interaction.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the sort of game that you're trying to play, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are some games that don't require any table talk and interaction, like chess, for example. Like,
how did I know you were going to say chess?
I mean, it's the perfect example of like a
non-luck,
not like there's no luck, no randomness, and it is like all the information is right there on the board, and like, and in some cases, like even though you're facing off an opponent, like in some cases you're just optimizing and reacting and planning your own strategy, like out a number of rounds, your own moves out a number of rounds, and trying to nominally predict what the other person is going to do. But it's not like a Euro game where their decisions are limit your options in a passive aggressive sort of way. Like Catan, for example, which even still has a fucking dice.
Yeah.
But there's the decisions that you make in that game like severely mitigate any dice roll.
Does it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't get any good rolls, like if you get bad luck and just roll sevens all the time, there's nothing you can do. Well, I guess you could potentially get resources on other people's turns. Yeah. Oh, luck. But that will do it for episode 35. Yeah. We mostly talked about luck.
We lucked it out.
Yes, it was a very lucky episode. We luckily did it.
Yeah.
Luckily in time.
I'm stopping there.
Yeah, so thanks for listening. If you're listening on iTunes, be sure to subscribe and like. And if you're on SoundCloud or anything else, like, because you gotta like it. I'm still. I had a little hiccup. I'm still posting these videos on YouTube, as you can tell or not may notice, but they are slightly delayed on YouTube by like maybe a weekish or whatever. So if you hate listening in SoundCloud or iTunes or Stitcher,
just wait a week.
Or Google Play. They'll eventually be posted. Subscribe to the YouTube page, and then you can have them all there and stuff. Also, the Threadless shop is up with 3 designs.
Woo!
Either the
merch,
the main logo, and a variety of different products. You could have like an iPhone case or an Android case or a notebook or a shirt or a hoodie.
But shirts.
Yeah, and I have one design for lounge pants for guys and girls.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Does it say NT Board Games on my ass?
No, it's just down like the thigh.
That's sexy.
Yes. They wouldn't let me pick where the logo went. So I'll think about adding more designs for funness, but we'll see. Those are up and available. If you don't know where Threadless is, you can always go to our website, and then there's a shop button, You can just click it and go to Threadless.
Buy our merch.
Yes. Think that's it. Outside of our social media, NT Board Games, and the Patreon NT Board Games. But I think that would do it for this episode. I don't think I have anything else.
Well, if you are local to the Baltimore area, Unpub is this weekend. Adam is not going.
I am not going.
I might show up on Saturday.
Theoretically, I'm not going out of spite. It seems like it. I just had a bunch of plans as scatterbrained as I am. I thought it was April 8th.
Yeah. It has been a different time each year.
Yeah. So somebody last week was like, hey, are you going? I was like, oh, I booked a board game thing on that day because I thought it was April 8th. He's like, oh, okay. And then I'm just... I
theoretically knew that it was happening on St. Paddy's Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was weird. But, maybe drinking at board games is a perfect thing.
But you won't be able to drink while playing board games.
Yeah.
You won't be able to drink and go there and play their board games. I mean, I guess you could do MagFest it up and put stuff in bottles and go in there if they let you bring bottles in. But I don't think you would want to go to an unpub event intoxicated.
No, probably not.
Because I feel like that's like, how do you play this game? I don't know what's going on.
The game's incomplete as it is.
Yeah.
Being drunk while playing it might just make it a little bit. Anyway.
Yeah.
Unpub.
Yeah, that's happening in Baltimore. If you're wanting to go, it's free, and it's Saturday and Sunday unless you pay money. Then it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, all right. See ya.
Let's play some games.